Chapter 11. She felt him before she saw him, like heat remembered after the fire was gone. Mara stepped out of the truck into a sky already bruising dark, the air thick with that unmistakable pressure that made the skin prickle and the lungs work harder. Sirens wailed somewhere down the coast. The wind tugged insistently at her jacket as if it recognized her, as if it knew she'd come back for this. For him. Luke stood near the church steps, phone pressed to his ear, posture rigid with focus. He looked thinner than she remembered, more tired. The sight of him hit her low and hard, a sharp ache that had nothing to do with weather models or evacuation timelines. He turned. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then he was crossing the distance between them in long strides, stopping only inches away. Close enough that she felt the warmth of him despite the rising wind, close enough that memory flared bright and dangerous. "You came back," he said. "I told you I would," she replied, voice steadier than she felt. His gaze searched her face, checking, measuring, trusting. "How bad?" "Worse than the last one," she said. "Stronger surge, faster intensification. We have hours, not days." Luke nodded once, already shifting into motion. "Then we don't waste them." They worked without hesitation, falling back into the rhythm that had forged itself under the first storm, voices overlapping, decisions handed off cleanly, trust unspoken but absolute. Luke moved through the crowd with calm authority, steadying fear with presence rather than promises. Mara coordinated evacuation routes, redirecting buses, pushing for faster timelines. At one point, their hands brushed as they passed a clipboard. Neither of them pulled away. The church filled with motion. People packing essentials, volunteers loading vehicles, children clinging to parents. The wind howled louder now, rattling the windows with increasing urgency. Mara leaned close to Luke to be heard. "We need to clear the low-lying blocks now. The surge is coming faster than projected." Luke nodded. "I'll take the south side." "No," she said immediately. "I will." His jaw tightened. "Mara." "I'm not asking," she said. "I need you here coordinating." Their eyes locked, old tension flaring briefly before something deeper took hold. Luke exhaled. "Then we go together." The words landed warm and solid in her chest. They moved into the streets as the first heavy drops of rain began to fall. Wind whipped debris past them. A tree limb cracked somewhere overhead. They reached the final house on the block. A stubborn elderly couple refusing to leave, fear masked by defiance. Mara spoke gently but firmly, Luke reinforcing her words with quiet assurance until, finally, the couple relented. They turned back toward the transport just as the wind surged violently, slamming Mara sideways. Luke caught her instantly, arms wrapping around her with instinctive certainty. She slammed into his chest, breath leaving her in a sharp gasp. For one suspended second, the world narrowed to the solid press of him, his heart pounding beneath her cheek, his grip unyielding. "You okay?" he asked, voice low, urgent. She nodded. "Don't let go." "I won't," he said without hesitation. They moved again, but the storm had shifted. A violent crack split the air. Mara looked up just in time to see the power line snap free, whipping wildly above them as another gust tore through the street. "Luke!" she shouted. The line came down fast. Luke shoved her clear with all his strength. Pain exploded as he went down hard, striking the pavement with a sound that made her blood run cold. "Luke!" Mara dropped to her knees beside him, rain plastering her hair to her face as the wind screamed around them. His eyes fluttered, unfocused. Blood traced a thin line along his temple. "Hey," she said, hands shaking as she cradled his head. "Stay with me, please, stay with me." He tried to speak. Failed. Something inside her cracked wide open. She bowed her head, rain and tears blurring together as the storm raged overhead. "God," she whispered, raw, unguarded, desperate. "I don't know how to ask. I don't know how to believe, but please, don't take him." Sirens wailed closer now. Someone shouted for help. Mara lifted her head, resolve burning through fear. "Help is coming," she told him fiercely. "You hear me? You're not done." Luke's hand twitched weakly in hers. The rain fell harder, and the storm showed no mercy. Chapter 12. Her hands shook against his chest because she needed him to be warm. Mara knelt on the rain-slick pavement beside the ambulance, palms pressed flat against Luke's jacket as paramedics worked with focused urgency around them. Red and blue lights fractured the darkness, flashing across his still face in disorienting bursts. The storm roared overhead, wind tearing at tarps and voices alike, but all she could hear was the uneven rhythm of her own breathing. "Luke," she whispered, leaning closer, forehead nearly touching his shoulder. "Please." She didn't know what she was asking for anymore. Time slowed into something thick and unbearable. The paramedics moved efficiently, calling out vitals, securing him to the gurney, lifting him with careful coordination. Someone tried to pull her back. She resisted. "I'm staying," she said hoarsely. Luke's hand twitched weakly, fingers brushing hers as if by instinct alone. That small movement broke her. Mara bowed her head, rain soaking into her hair, her voice swallowed by wind and sirens. "God," she whispered again, not loud enough for anyone else to hear, not shaped into anything she'd been taught. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to believe in reasons or plans or good endings." Her throat closed painfully. "But I can't lose him. I can't." The words felt reckless, exposed, honest, in a way she hadn't been in years. She stayed with him through the ride, fingers laced with his whenever the medic allowed it, anchoring herself to the rise and fall of his chest. The hospital loomed out of the rain like a promise she wasn't sure she trusted. Inside, everything smelled like antiseptic and urgency. Luke was wheeled away, leaving her standing alone beneath fluorescent lights that made the world feel too sharp, too real. A nurse guided her to a hard plastic chair in the waiting area. Mara sat, hands clasped tightly in her lap, unable to still the tremor running through her. "This is what happens when you let yourself need someone," the old voice whispered. She ignored it. Minutes blurred into hours. Rain battered the windows. The storm raged on outside, indifferent to the fragile human hope held inside the building. At some point, Mara realized she was praying again. Not out loud, not formally, just breathing words into the silence. "Please let him wake up. Please let me say the things I didn't say. Please don't let fear have the last word." A doctor finally approached, expression carefully neutral. "Mara Collins?" She stood so fast the room tilted. "Yes." "Luke Bennett is stable," the doctor said. "He has a concussion and internal injuries. We're monitoring him closely, but he's alive." The relief hit her like a wave, sudden and overwhelming. Her knees nearly buckled. "Can I see him?" Briefly. Luke lay pale against white sheets, an oxygen mask soft against his face. Machines hummed quietly, steady and reassuring. Mara moved to his side, careful not to disturb the lines and monitors. She brushed her fingers lightly over his hand. "You scared me," she whispered. His eyelids fluttered. "Mara?" His voice was faint but unmistakably his. She laughed softly through tears. "I'm here." A weak smile touched his mouth. "You came back." "I always come back," she said, realizing it was finally true. His fingers tightened around hers, just enough to be real. "Good." She leaned closer, resting her forehead near his hand, letting the warmth of him ground her. "I don't know what happens next," she admitted quietly. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to do this the right way." Luke's eyes stayed on her, steady even now. "You already are." She shook her head. "I don't mean control. I mean staying. Choosing something that could break me." Luke swallowed. "Faith doesn't keep you from breaking," he said softly. "It just keeps you from breaking alone." Tears slipped free then, silent and unashamed. "I love you," she said, the words escaping before she could stop them. Luke didn't hesitate. "I love you too." The words settled between them, not dramatic, not loud, certain. A nurse cleared her throat gently from the doorway. "We need to let him rest." Mara squeezed Luke's hand once more before stepping back, heart aching but full in a way it had never been. She stepped into the hallway and finally allowed herself to breathe. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She almost ignored it. Then she read the message. "Official offer. Permanent appointment available pending review outcome. Senior Disaster Response Director. Immediate relocation required." Everything she had worked for, everything she had told herself, mattered. Mara stared at the screen, heart pounding. Behind her, Luke slept, alive, breathing, waiting. Ahead of her stood the future she'd always chased. She closed her eyes, and for the first time she didn't know which storm was more dangerous.